Well, hello, and welcome to another segment of The Truth About Your Relationship. I am Dr. LaWanda Evans, and I am the owner of the Healthy Relationship Institute. I specialize in helping couples build and maintain a healthy, loving, lasting relationship. I specifically help couples to communicate, to be heard and understood, to manage conflicts in their relationship, and how to understand each other better. I am a licensed professional counselor, a healthy relationship expert, couples expert and therapist, speaker, and author. And so in today's segment of The Truth About Your Relationship, I'm going to be talking about from conflicts to communication. So we're going to talk a lot about how to deal with conflicts in your relationship, how to decrease conflicts in your relationship, and I'm going to give you some practical tools that you can actually use in your relationship to decrease the conflict and to deal and manage those conflicts in your relationship. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Again, today's topic for this segment of The Truth About Your Relationship is from conflicts to communication. So when we talk about conflicts, when we talk about the inability to communicate, do you find yourself always arguing in your relationship about the smallest thing? Do you have conflicts or ongoing conflicts in your relationship that appear to be nonstop? Do most of your disagreements turn into arguments? Are you always fussing and fighting and cussing each other out? 5 out of 7 days, 3 out of 7 days, 2 out of 7 days? And do you have a hard time discussing issues in your relationship without fussing, without fighting, without arguing, without cussing, without going off? So I want you to think about those questions, because those questions are extremely important to the success of your relationship. These questions are extremely important. You need to be able to identify whether or not you're having more conflicts than conversations in your relationship. And what are these disagreements about? What are these problems about? Why is it that every time you all have a conversation with one another, they always lead to arguments? So how do you really communicate when there's a conflict or a disagreement? How you want to be able to look at yourself and identify what are the things that you do, and how do you all communicate with one another when there's a conflict or disagreement in your relationship. You know, I've been doing some research, which I'm always doing research, and really trying to identify the things that are connected to some of the issues and challenges that are impacting relationships. And one of the things that I found out, and I don't know if you know this or not, but every time you argue, your heart rate goes up, which increases your chance of a stroke, a heart attack, or some other type of sickness or disease or illness in your body. So this is something you want to think about the next time there's any type of conflicts in your relationship. You want to consider how always arguing and always having conflicts in your relationship, you want to think about how this actually impacts your emotional, your mental health, as well as your physical health. And most of the times people can't see the fact that these things are actually impacting their bodies because you can't see them, because it's on the inside. It's an internal thing. But you want to keep in mind that every time you argue, according to research, every time you argue, every time you're fussing and fighting, your heart rate goes up. So that is definitely something I want you to consider. Sorry. So one of the other things I want to talk about, as I take a drink of water, is that I want to let you know that conflicts are good for your relationship. You know, many times people think that maybe we avoid the conflict, or maybe if we don't talk to each other, or we just sweep it under the rug, then things will get better and everything would be okay. Actually, that's not a good thing. Conflicts are good for your relationship for 4 reasons. Number 1, conflicts provide opportunities for growth. Conflicts provide opportunities to make changes in yourself as well as in your relationship. Conflicts always also provide opportunities for you and your mate to problem solve. And conflicts provide opportunities for you to improve your listening skills. But it becomes an issue when your conflicts keep you from communicating with each other for several days. So conflicts are good for your relationship, but if the conflicts you're having in your relationship is keeping you from communicating with each other, and then you eventually sweep things under the rug, that's when it becomes a problem. So I have 6 reasons that I have observed and just working with people and just doing a lot of relationship work. There are 6 reasons why conflicts occur in a relationship. And I want you to think about this in reference to your own relationship. Think about the last problem or conflict you and your mate had, you and your husband had, and think about what was the root cause. What was really going on at their particular moment. So the 6 reasons why I believe that conflicts occur in a relationship is because of the lack of understanding, because of misunderstanding, because of ineffective communication, because of the lack of control over a situation or possibly over the person, when you refuse to compromise, and when you don't have the ability to yield to win. These 6 things are some of the reasons why conflicts occur in a relationship, or some of the reasons why people have such a hard time dealing and managing the conflicts that are actually in their relationship. When you refuse to compromise, you're basically saying, I want things my way. This is how I want things to go. Or when you don't want to yield to win. So many people are bent on being right that they don't want to compromise. They don't want to yield to win because they got to be right. They got to have the last word. They got to make sure they get their point across. But these 6 things basically says that this is the reason why different types of conflicts occur in relationships. And whenever there are conflicts in a relationship, your emotions are extremely high. And it becomes another issue because many times people want to deal with the conflicts in their relationship immediately when their emotions are extremely high. I highly recommend that you never deal with problems or conflicts in your relationship when your emotions are high. Why? Because when your emotions are high, you don't have the ability to see the opportunities that are within the conflicts in your relationships. And then the second reason why is because your emotions override seeing anything positive when there's a conflict in your relationship. So you want to wait until your emotions are low before you begin to deal with the conflicts or the problems in your relationship. You want to make sure that you've at least taken a 20-minute break from your mate, from the situation, to collect your thoughts, to begin to manage your emotions and gain control over your emotions before you begin to respond to the issues or challenges, or before you all begin to identify solutions to the issues and problems in your relationship. And so one of the other things that I always say, whenever there are conflicts or problems in a relationship, it usually means that there's a need that's not being met. And that's something you want to think about when you're extremely upset, when your emotions are extremely high. You want to ask yourself, what is the need that's not being met in my life right now? What is it that I really want? What is it that I would really like at this present time? But you have to give yourself the ability to gain control over your emotions before you begin to answer this question. Another reason why is that whenever there's a goal, an aspiration, a desire, or want that has not been achieved or addressed in the relationship, it causes your emotions to be high and it leads to conflicts. And when you don't feel heard or listened to, this causes conflicts most of the time. And when you don't feel valued or you feel taken for granted, think about this. There's a need that you have that's not being met. There's a goal, aspiration, desire, want that has not been achieved or addressed or expressed in your relationship. You don't feel heard or listened to. You don't feel valued, or you feel taken for granted. All of these types of feelings lead to resentment. And then you find yourself snapping or going off on your mate because there's some internal things that are going on the inside of you that you are having a difficult time expressing. And then your emotions are high when there's a conflict, because all of these feelings actually resurface whenever there are problems or issues and challenges in the relationship. So this is very important for you to be able to identify within yourself and really talk yourself through this to see what is really going on the inside of you whenever there are conflicts and problems and challenges in your relationship. Why are you responding that way? Why are you automatically upset? Is it because there's some things that are actually deep rooted that you all have not talked about and you haven't had the ability to express? Is it because resentment has actually been rooted now on the inside of you because there are needs that have not been met? Is it because you feel devalued, or you don't feel valued, or you feel taken for granted, or because you don't feel heard or listened to? And many a times when we have these feelings and we don't express these feelings to our mate, it causes conflicts, and it causes the problems that are in the relationship to be magnified a little bit higher than what they really are. So that's something you want to think about. When there are conflicts in your relationship and you don't feel heard, you're talked over, you're not listened to, and when your thoughts, feelings, and opinions are not expressed, they are neglected or ignored, this would cause you to suppress your feelings. And when your feelings are suppressed, this can potentially lead to depression, stress, or other emotional issues. See, all of this impacts your emotional, mental, and physical health. And so you have to consider these things the next time there are arguments or conflicts in your relationship. Every time there's a conflict, you don't have the ability to communicate with each other. It's difficult to communicate when you don't feel heard or understood. It's difficult to communicate when what you're trying to express is shut down and you're not given the opportunity to express what's really going on with you. It's difficult. It's very difficult. So what do you do? What do you do when all these conflicts are going on in your relationship? What do you do when you're having a difficult time expressing how you feel? Well, one of the first things you want to do, you want to learn how to manage the conflicts. And I use the word manage because many conflicts in relationship, you're not going to be able to solve. You have problems that occur in your relationship that you can solve, and you have problems in your relationship that you would not be able to solve. And the thing about it is being able to identify those problems that are solvable and those problems that are unsolvable. There are things that you just cannot do anything about, and it's okay. But learning how to manage the conflicts and the problems that are going on is very important. And then you want to learn how to problem solve. You know, we're not taught how to problem solve in relationships. We're taught how to problem solve in math, but we're not taught how to problem solve when it comes to a relationship. And what happens, we end up dealing with the problems in our relationship the same way we saw our parents or caregivers deal with problems or issues or challenges. So we want to be able to learn how to problem solve and not use an ineffective method to solve the problems in the relationship. Another thing you want to do is learn how to communicate with each other without hurting each other. Why is it, you want to ask yourself, why is it that every time he or she says something to me, the first thing I want to do is hit below the belt? Why is it that every time we communicate with each other and he or she says something to me, I just automatically say something to hurt that person's feelings? You want to ask yourself that. Because when you are communicating with your mate, and every time you say something, you're hurting their feelings, or you're hitting below the belt, or you're being sarcastic, or you're saying things to make them feel worthless, or to make them feel devalued, you need to ask yourself, where is that coming from? What is really going on the inside of you that you got to go into attack mode every time you have a conversation or every time there's a conflict in your relationship with your mate? It's important for you to be able to know where that's actually coming from. So how do you go from conflicts to communication? How do you do the things that I just talked about? Being able to compromise. Let's talk about that for a moment. Compromise is having the ability to negotiate with each other and find ways to accommodate each other. You cannot continue to have a healthy relationship if you don't find ways to accommodate each other when there are issues or challenges in your relationship. When there are conflicts in your relationship, you have to identify ways to accommodate each other. You have to identify ways to negotiate with one another in order to compromise. You want to be able to do three things. Identify what is the conflict about, what is the goal that you're trying to reach in the midst of this conflict, and what are the solutions that you both can agree on that would help you reach the goal that you're wanting to accomplish. This is something that you want to implement into your relationship. And then the second thing you want to do to go from conflicts to communication, you want to make and receive repair attempts. Repair attempts are things that you do to de-escalate the conflict in the relationship. Not avoid the conflict, but what are some things you can do to de-escalate the conflict in the relationship? It could be using humor. It could be apologizing. It could be, saying, you know what, I'm sorry for doing X, Y, and Z. What are some things that you can do to de-escalate the conflict in the relationship? But the thing about it, you have to be able to make repair attempts and receive repair attempts. So if there's a conflict in the relationship and you said something mean or you did something mean to your mate, apologize. Go and apologize. Or if some of you use humor, a lot in your relationship. What is something fun or funny that you can say to help decrease or de-escalate the conflict in your relationship? And then your mate has to be able to receive the repair attempt. You can't be so stubborn, I would say, where you so mad that when you see that your mate is trying to repair the hurt or the harm that he or she has done, that you don't want to receive it. You can't just be so hurt that, I'm just going to stop talking to you and I don't care what you try to do. It's still not going to make me do this or make me like you all over again or make me forgive you. You got to get to a place that you got to let some of those things go. And when you see that your mate is trying to de-escalate the conflict in the relationship, you got to be able to let go of the feelings and the negative emotions that it have you tied to the situation that just happened so that you can receive the repair attempt. Because what happens is when your mate is trying to de-escalate the conflict in the relationship and you don't receive what it is that he or she is trying to do, you're doing more harm to yourself. Because what you're doing, you're holding on to the negative feelings, the negative emotions, and it's causing you to become stressed, it's causing you to become frustrated, and it's causing different types of sickness and diseases to develop in your body. So when we get to a place that we realize that the conflicts, the issues and challenges that we're dealing with in our relationship, when we don't let those things go and when we don't deal with those things properly, when we begin to realize how those things impact our emotional, our mental, and our physical health, until we get to the place that we understand that, then we will have the ability to begin to let things go. It's not saying that you're not going to deal with it, but you're not going to hold on to it for so long where it's impacting you and causing you to get sick. So that's something you want to think about as well. And then another thing you want to do, you want to have a softened startup. Having the ability to use I statements instead of you statements. Being able to describe how you feel and express what you want, what you need, or what you would like in a very positive way. Many times when there are arguments in a relationship, we go straight for, you made me do this, or you did this, or you did that. Instead of doing that, how about change that and express how you feel? How about change that and express how you feel, what's going on inside of you, instead of pointing fingers and try to make your mate responsible for the feelings that you are feeling because of the issues and challenges in the relationship. So in order to have a softened startup, you have to be able to express, number one, how you feel. What is really going on the inside of you? It's how I feel about what, and I need. Or some people don't like to use the word need. I want, or I would like. So I feel unhappy, about not being included in decisions that we're making about our family. What I would like is to always be included in the decision-making process. This 3-step process can change, transform your relationship. Being able to express how you feel and not pointing the fingers and always saying what your mate is doing would actually help to transform how you have conversations in your relationship. So I want you to try it. Just express, I'm feeling frustrated. I feel frustrated about the garbage not being taken out all the time. What I would like is for the garbage to be taken out at a certain time of the day. Or I'm feeling unhappy, as I stated earlier, I'm feeling unhappy about not being included in the decisions that we're making about our relationship or about our kids. What I would want is to be included in the decision-making process. Yes, it's hard to change how you communicate and how you express how you feel, but if you work at it, you would get better at it. If you work at it, your relationship will begin to change. If you work at it, you'll get a better response from your mate. It's not something that is going to automatically occur or automatically change, but you have to be able to work at it in order for things to change. So begin to use the 3-step process. I feel about what I need. Or if you don't want to use the word need, I feel about what I would want or I would like. You use what works best for you, but the goal is to get you from using you and really expressing how you feel in a positive way, or expressing what's going on inside of you without pointing a finger or blaming your mate for the things that are actually going on. So it's really about you taking responsibility for how you feel and expressing what it is that you would like in the relationship in order for you to feel better and not have the feelings that you're feeling. And another thing, let me say something about that. You can also express positive things. I feel very happy about all the time that we're spending together in our relationship. I would really love it if we can spend more time together. So you can express something positive, and you can also express how you feel to be able to decrease the conflicts in your relationship. So those are the 3 ways that you go from conflicts to relationships. So what are some things you can do to decrease the conflicts in your relationship? I'm going to give you 8 ways or 8 things that you can do right now. In addition to all the other things that I've talked about, I'm going to give you 8 things that you can do to help decrease the conflicts. You want to learn to communicate effectively. You want to focus on solutions and not the negativity and the problems. See, so many times in relationships, we focus on the problems so much that we forget that there are solutions to the problems. So you want to be able to focus on solutions. Then you want to avoid saying hurtful and mean things to each other. You want to avoid hitting below the belt. and you know when you're getting ready to do it. So the only thing you need to do is learn to manage your emotions and tell yourself that you are choosing not to hit below the belt. You are choosing not to say anything hurtful, and you are choosing not to say anything mean. Learn to manage your own emotions. Learn how to not say hurtful and mean things to each other, because you know when you're doing it. It's not like, oops, I didn't mean to say that. No, you know exactly what you're doing. So you have to focus on yourself and really learn to manage yourself. And you have to choose. You have to make a choice to not say hurtful and mean things to each other. And then you want to listen attentively to each other. Shut down social media. Turn your cell phones off. Get into a quiet place where you can listen to each other attentively. And then you want to keep an open heart and mind. When you begin to have conversations and you're dealing with the conflicts, have an open heart and an open mind. Don't be so closed-minded. Be respectful enough that you can hear your mate with your heart, with your mind, and you can really hear and understand what he or she is trying to express to you. Then you want to be respectful to each other with your words and in your tone. And that's via if you're texting each other, or if you're talking to each other over the phone, or you're talking to each other face to face. Be very respectful with your words and be very respectful in your tone. And then you want to respect each other's viewpoint, beliefs, values, and opinions. You have to understand that when you're in a relationship with someone, you both are different. You both bring different things to the table. You both bring different things from your background to the table. You came from two different environments. You came from two different families. So you're going to have different viewpoints. You're going to have different beliefs, and you're going to have different values and opinions. And it is okay. You don't want to be in a relationship with someone who is just like you. So it's okay that your mate have different beliefs, values, and opinions and viewpoints other than yourself. It becomes an issue when you try to change your mate to be who you want them to be, instead of allowing them to be who God has called them to be and who God has shaped them into being. So learn to respect each other's viewpoint, beliefs, values, and opinions. And then you want to work towards understanding each other's feelings, needs, wants, and desires. It is so important to develop an understanding of how each other feels, what your needs are, what your wants are, and what your desires are. And in order to do that, you have to take time to sit, to talk, to really communicate, to understand where you're coming from when there are conflicts in your relationship. So in closing, conflicts provide opportunities for your relationship to grow and for you and your mate to learn new ways to communicate with each other. When you love one another, respect each other, listen to each other, and let go of the need to be right and to have the last word, and put your ego to the side for the sake of the relationship, you increase your chance of your relationship surviving. Thank you so much. This has been Dr. LaWanda N. Evans with another segment of The Truth About Your Relationship, from conflicts to communication. Thank you all so much, and I will see you all next time. Have a great day. Bye-bye.